Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of Paranormal Among Us. Actually, it's part 2 of episode 13. We were talking with Missouri Mufon State Director Debbie Ziegelmeyer in the last episode. She had talked about her underwater explorations, Missouri's own Tic Tac UAPs near the Jefferson Barracks Bridge, and what a good time to find UAPs might be. So stay tuned for part 2 of my interview, where we talk about Missouri's UFO capital, a small town in southern Missouri called Piedmont. But first, I want to remind you to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any interesting topics that come up. Also, if you have a paranormal story to share, please email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. That's paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to get your story on a future episode. Okay, on the other side of this blurry thing, part 2 of my interview with Debbie Ziegelmeyer.
What started the main investigation started February 21st of 1973, and Reggie Bone and 5 of his basketball players were coming back from Essex. There'd been a playoff game. I talked to another witness, and there was a couple school buses behind him, a little bit of distance behind, of course, with the kids that went to watch the game also, and you had cheerleaders, that type of thing. And they had seen this light. Well, coming around the corner, they saw a craft hovering over this field, and that was in the Mill Springs area. They watched it for a while. Some of the boys got out of the car and looked at it. It slowly moved across the field, took height, and went into the woods. And it was, I guess he said it was about the size of half of a football field. It was huge. That was about 8:30 at night. At 10 o'clock at night in Piedmont, Edith Boatwright saw something that looked like a helicopter, but no blade on the top. It was in the front with windows across it, that outside her bedroom window. Then there were so many sightings in the next few days that they had over 200 sightings in the area reported in the next few days of these strange balls of light.
Wow.
Craft, moving around lights. There were so many of them that the people used to meet at the town dump, which was the highest point in town. And so they'd all meet at the dump. And that's how the next major sighting ended up. It was Gene Coleman and Kathy Leach were there with Gene's 2 daughters, and they were coming from the dump going home. It was getting late. The girls needed to go to bed, and they came across Clearwater Lake Dam. And as they came across, there was a craft hovering on the top, and all the lights would come on, and then they would blink. When they went out, it would be someplace else, and they'd come on, and it was just over the water. They decided to go back to the dump where everybody else was. And when they got there, Jean Coleman asked her brother, she said, "Did you see that?" Well, they had seen the light moving across the sky and end up over there. And he said, "Yeah, look above." And there was a big amber light right above them. So there was still something there. There were so many lights, so many things going on that I believe it was March 20, let's say I wrote it down someplace, well, actually, the lake, the 20th, the 21st, and 22nd of March, they had divers from Missouri go out there and see if they could find something. And let's see, was that March or April?
Is that in Clearwater Lake?
Yeah, Clearwater Lake. I believe it was in April because the sighting was March 21st. So in April, they sent some divers out there. And it'd been raining, typical Missouri. It was raining. It was too murky. They never saw anything. But end of March, they had Harley Rutledge, I believe it was March 17th, applied for a grant. He was at Southeast Missouri State in Cape Girardeau. And he applied for a grant to go out there and investigate. Had another professor and a couple students with him to go out to the area, and was granted money for 2 weeks. They no sooner set up their cameras and they caught some lights. And there was so much going on, they eventually triangulated an area between Clearwater Lake, Farmington Airport, and the Brushy Creek area. And the Farmington Airport, they had it set up to where there was a plane ready to go that they could chase it down. And one of them, with students, they saw this bright light coming in, and they thought it was a plane that was going to land at Farmington Airport. And then it went back up in the sky and took off. And one of the students yelled, and he said, "Professor," he said, "look at the light. It's turned." It was just a white light. And they thought it was that white light from the plane coming in. And as it took off and took altitude, he said, "Look at the lights. As it's moving away, the green light was on the left and the red on the right. which is opposite. Going away, it should have been red, green. So it's either
Mhm.
flying up or backwards. They didn't get. They got a picture of it in black and white. My chief investigator and I and our other investigator, Russ Payne, Mel Van Dickel, Russ Payne, and I got the same type of video on the investigation that we're working on in the Merrimack River area, and we got the same thing happened to us. We watched this light come
Really?
across Highway 40, go through some trees, come right at us, go overhead, turn, go off in the distance, green light on the left, red light on the right. We got it on video. So,
Nice.
so
So I mean, so when you say going through trees, is it, not too high off the ground?
well, what it did, this one particular light, I think it was two, 20, 2021, or 2020. It was 2020 in January 2020. And we watched it come across. We were near running alongside Highway 44. We watched it come across through our night vision binoculars. It came across Highway 40, Highway 44, and then the road that we were off of, it was low enough to where there were trees. And then it didn't go across the top of the trees, it went across into the middle of the trees. So halfway up the trees, that'd be maybe 25 foot or so. And we could see it still glowing through the trees. And then it came out of the trees right at us, came right overhead, cupped like this, and started doing that. And then it turned into a bright light again, took flight. And as it got higher up, then we saw the lights, and all of a sudden it turned on FAA lights. We watched this thing come low and come through the trees
Really?
I believe it was January 5th. And so there were no leaves on the trees, and we watched it come through the
Mhm.
trees. And we thought, and that can't be a drone. The woods were really thick. Can you maneuver through that? And then when it took flight and
Yeah.
then turned on the lights, and then eventually got higher altitude and had a contrail behind it. So we
Wow.
get that on tape. I mean, so, but
Yeah.
anyway, this all started, the same thing was happening in Piedmont. And then one other
Mhm.
interesting thing about Piedmont, it was let's see, his name was um, Eddie Doyle Webb. Eddie Doyle Webb on October 3rd of 1973, 6:30 in the morning, was 8 miles north of Cape Girardeau on Highway 55. And going
Mhm.
south toward Cape, he and his wife Velma May were coming back from a run. They were driving a big Peterbilt 18-wheeler, and they got just 8 miles outside. And she was sleeping in the cab. They're getting ready to go in. They'd already dropped off their load, and he saw a bright light in his rearview mirror. And he thought, "Well, what's that?" He stuck his head out the window, and there was kind of this like an acorn-shaped craft. While
Mhm.
he was looking at it, the top was spinning one direction, the bottom in another direction, and the middle was stationary. And as he was looking at it, it flashed at him and blinded him. He got the truck pulled over, and then once he got the truck pulled over, he hollered for his wife, and she came out and drove the truck the rest of the way into into Cape Girardeau. And
Yeah.
when they got there, he had gotten most of his sight back, took him to the emergency room. He ended up losing 15% of his peripheral vision. The Mufon investigator that investigated that was an attorney. And to end up the story, he was able to file workman's comp because he was injured while on the job, even
Oh
though it
yeah.
was a UFO. And he is the only case that we know of so far that has been able to collect workman's compensation while on the job being injured by a UFO here in the state of Missouri. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that's part of the Piedmont story. That's 1973, October 3rd, 1973. So needless to say, with all
Wow.
this going on, Harley Rutledge investigated that also, and his funding was extended all the way through the beginning of 1980.
Wow.
That's when
That's
this one.
amazing. All this information, I ever since I started doing this podcast, I'm just amazed. The episodes move on, I just get more amazed at the things that I'm talking to, like with you, everything that I'm talking with you. This is just absolutely amazing. I love this stuff. What else that I find is very, very fascinating is you're going back to dates in the 70s and 60s, and you're spot on. Holy cow. I'm amazed.
Oh,
I
I
mean, I
mean, the
can't
only
remember what I did last month.
well, I remember back then, I remember the reports of the UFOs coming in out of Clearwater Lake, covering over the lake, the lights, because that was the place. When you live here, I live in Jefferson County. And then if you want to go, for the weekend, someplace that's close, you go to Clearwater Lake. If you want to go skiing and swimming, you go to Wapapilla Lake if you want to go bass fishing. That's just kind of what it was. And it probably still is. And so I remember all this vividly, that and over the years, and then also with the help of an investigator who, I remember he's moved again, but Dave Marler lived in this area at the time, and his dad was investigating that. He gave me a copy of all these newspaper articles. So I used that along when we wrote a book. It's 50th anniversary of Southeast Missouri Ozark UFO Flap. I had to read that because the book's only been out since April. So we kept changing the title, but Piedmont had a big festival there, and it was so much fun. It was April 21st, 22nd, just recently. They started out with a parade. The town, they had contests decorating the businesses with UFOs. I saw a police officer drive by with an alien in the back seat with the head sticking out the window. It was great. There were aliens everywhere. They had a light parade starting at 8:00 at night on the 21st. And so they started with fire engines, and they had floats and everything coming by. Aliens walking. I mean, it was fantastic. And then we went from there to the movie theater and the drive-in movie theater, and they showed Close Encounters. And then we had to sleep the next morning. So at 11:45, they were going to start to show Paul. And we said, oh, gosh, we got to get to bed. But it was great watching Close Encounters, especially since one of my witnesses said that back in when he was in junior high in the 70s, he said he remembers being at the drive-in movie theater and someone would yell, they're back. And someone would run into the little snack shed, and they'd say, turn off the projector. They're back. They'd turn off the projector and all the lights, and they would watch strange lights moving around or dancing around. That same movie theater, to be able to go over there and watch Close Encounters, it was fantastic.
Well, and they were just coming to see the free movie, I think.
Oh, well, no, the movie wasn't free. It was $5 a car to get in.
No, the aliens were coming to see the movie.
Oh, the aliens. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And there are Preston Dennett has written a book on nothing but sightings from drive-in movie theaters, an entire book.
Really?
So their people are seeing, they're seeing UFOs while they're out. Well, I guess all the lights out. And it's got to be pretty dark out to be able to watch a drive-in movie. So they're seeing things. But the festival continued on. We had speakers. There was Mel Van Dickel, Margie Kay, myself, and Forrest Crawford were all speakers there. And the next year, what they're going to do in Piedmont is it's going to be beginning of April. It's going to be during the full eclipse. That full eclipse of the sun is going to be back again next year in April, and it's a center point's going to be right over Piedmont. So they're going to have an eclipse festival, and it's going to go on to a UFO festival. So they're going to continue with the festival every year. And
nice.
It was
I might have to make my way down there.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. And then they had bill RHB 1261 is a bill, and it was submitted by Chris Dinkins, who lives in the area. And by August 28th, it's already gone through. I think it was the Congress 9-0 vote, and it just has to go through the Senate. But by August 28th, Piedmont will officially be the UFO capital of Missouri.
Wow, sweet.
So, it's going to be Missouri. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be going there. It's going to be like going to Roswell, which I've been there several. I lost track. I quit counting it 25 times I've been there, but it's going to. We have the area for it. There are so many sightings in this area, and that's a good focal point to start.
Do you know where Missouri ranks as far as the United States in UFO sightings? If we're one of the top states, or
we're always in the top like 5 or 6.
Really?
I mean, always. Yeah, we're always out of 52. Yeah, it's funny that in Wyoming, the chief state director there says, "Oh gosh, he's lucky if he gets one a month." I was looking it up just to make sure. So far this year, we have received 89 reports.
Really?
And we're only, and that's actually let's see, we're halfway through the year. So we're usually, I think last year was well over 200.
Wow.
We receive a lot of, and the thing about the reports is that 90% of them are just really good, legitimate reports. There's very few people anymore that say, okay, I saw this bright light going over and it didn't blink, and they know it's the International Space Station.
Yeah.
Missourians are getting very smart with that. The people that watch the skies know the sky. And it's just, I guess we try and keep them very aware. Between Margie Kay and myself, she lives in the Kansas City area. Of course, I'm here on the St. Louis side. And we make sure enough to tell people, look at heavens above, get a phone app, get Flight Radar 24. It's free on your phone just to do that. But if you want to go back, then you have, 30 some dollars a year. It's not a whole lot of money for a year, to pay for a year for the service.
Yeah.
But we're getting very smart in Missouri because we have a lot going on. And the other thing is too, that the investigation has taken us to trying to find out why we're the K-State. Okay. Maybe that's why there's a lot of sightings in and around the Merrimack Caverns area. We're also the Show Me State. Maybe they're trying to show us something. I don't know. But we have rivers. That we have sightings. We've got that tic tac around, and triangle shaped craft. Also triangle shaped in and around Jefferson Barracks. We have an investigator, Dana West, that just focuses on that. That there's so many sightings in and around that area, and it started with triangle. Now, the more recently, it's been tic tac. And then we got the Missouri River over in Kansas City area, and there's just so much going on there. And then I'm investigating the Merrimack River area.
Nice.
It's just so we don't know. Lead. We've also got a lot of lead in the state.
Yeah.
Is that a reason why? We're also the center. Did you know that we're the center of population? When they did the last census, it ended up Hartville, Missouri, is the population center of the United States.
Really? I had no idea. Wow,
yes.
That's awesome.
Well, we investigate all this, trying to find out why. I mean, we've got Whiteman Air Force Base, and just about 35 miles or so on the other side of the river from me is Scott.
And you got what's the Army base?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Yeah, Fort Leonard Wood, and you got Scott Air Force Base just across the river in Illinois.
Yeah, Scott and so, Whiteman. Whiteman, it's got the V-2 bombers. So there's a lot in this area. And so I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Did you see the Chinese spy balloon?
Yes. I didn't actually see it. I heard the reports about it, but I didn't see it.
I saw it. I'm here in Jefferson County. I came home from work, and when it sat out on my back deck, 4:30 in the afternoon, I look up and this thing's at about 60 degrees in the sky. It stayed for 2.5 hours. I took my cell phone, took 3 pictures. My cell phone went dead. Went in and got my little HD video camera. Took about 8 pictures with that. But when I tried to take video, the video blurred and it wouldn't focus on it. Really? Then when it got to be 7 o'clock at night, I brought out my night vision camera and went to get, it was still there, went to get pictures. The pictures and video wouldn't copy to the scan disk. It said error when it hadn't copied to them. So I had electromagnetic effect from 3 different camera types. I thought, what are they doing? It's
kind of odd for a weather balloon.
Oh yeah, right. At 2.5 hours and hovering, escaped weather balloon, I'd watch it move a little bit and then go back. And the wind would drift it a little bit and it would go back. And then I realized that just about 3-4 miles north of me, off of Highway 55, off Richardson Road, is our national government. They call it the mapping. There's an official name for it. I don't remember offhand, but everybody around here just calls it that government mapping place. Yeah, that is our main place for gathering data, I guess, from spy satellites, whatever. That's our government data gathering place is over there. We refer to it as a mapping place. They were I talked to somebody who used to work there, and he said that the reason that my cameras were getting this effect was this spy balloon was trying to gather data from that, and that they were blocking it. And so it was probably the blocking of the balloon is what was causing the effect on my camera, but not strong enough to where it would ruin the camera.
Yeah.
And So
Wow.
that's pretty much. So then after it was at 7:10, it moved on, and then the next morning it was shot down. I believe it was in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was shot down, but it hovered in this area for 2.5 hours trying to gather data.
I actually have a neighbor that works at that mapping government mapping place, so I have to ask him. I'll bug him about that. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
much he
and
can tell me, but
well, and then now we have what's called a MADAR, MADAR. They're MADAR boxes, and they
Mhm.
also picked up EMF. And this is a system. Fran runs this. I can't remember what state he's in, but we've got them all over the United States. I believe there's
Mhm.
5 or 6 in Missouri spread across, and they're just a little box. And if there's some type of an EMF effect, it will register back at the main site. If you go on Mufon.com, there's information about Madar on that, and there's also an
Right.
article monthly on our journal. But lately, I've been getting hits. I'm mode 25. I've been getting hits at about 5:30 in the morning, 5:15, 5:30, and I thought, this is here at my office. So there's nobody around at 5:30 in the morning. Nobody's moving around anywhere. I went online and I found out on Heavens Above, and this was Mel Van Vickel's idea. I said, I've tried everything. There's nobody. I don't know what it is. He said, did you look and see if there's any satellites? There are Russian satellites that are visible in this area at 5:30 in the morning. If you look on Heavens Above,
Really?
every time my Madar goes off, there
It's a
it's
Russian
listed me.
satellite.
There's a Russian satellite that and told me where I can look at it from, in the sky. It's a Russian satellite, I guess. Now the Russians are here at this mapping place trying to get information. And I thought,
Russia,
oh
China,
my
everybody's coming over here.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
I think we had to charge them some kind of a like a tariff fee or something, a user fee,
Yeah,
you
no
know.
kidding. Airspace fee.
Yeah, there you go. Airspace
Awesome.
fee.
Yeah. Well, Debbie, I appreciate all this information. This is just my head's exploding here. I mean, you just is a ton of information. We could probably talk for another 2 hours and stuff
It's a
and
show
not
me
cover
state.
everything. It is. It is definitely. So, there's a lesson for everybody here, and I was doing another show in different podcasts earlier this year, and we were talking about aliens, and I kept saying, how many times do you walk around and your eyes are just down looking at the ground? There is so much more going on up above, and you'll never know what you're going to see. You might be at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Keep your
Yeah.
eyes looking up, especially toward rivers and lakes.
And keep your phone with you.
And keep your phone with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, Debbie, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
If they take their phone with them, take video. Make sure and take video. Don't take it just of the object. Make sure that you can zoom in, but try not to zoom in the object. Take background too, so we can document it. That way we can triangulate if we can see a building or something, but take video better than stills if you can. And
Oh,
thank you so
awesome.
much for
Good
having me
advice.
on. I
All right.
appreciate it, and it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. And my thanks to Debbie Ziegelmeyer for joining us these past 2 episodes. Lots of great things in the interview. Before contacting her, and certainly before starting this podcast, I had no idea there were so many sightings in the state of Missouri, let alone in the city where I live here in St. Louis. So, wherever you are watching this, pay attention to the sky. You never know. You might be in the right place at the right time to see something out of this world fly by. Remember, if you happen to be in the right place at the right time to see a UAP, if you get a picture or video of it, let me know. Or if you have seen a spirit wandering around you or would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. That's paranormalamongus72@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to share your story on a future episode. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Lots of interesting topics coming up in the weeks to come. So stay safe out there, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode of Paranormal Among Us.